Welcome to the Grammar Unwrapped tutorial on active versus passive voice and commas. First, we'll be talking about active voice. What is active voice? It is a property of sentences in which the subject is generally the agent, which is the performer of the action indicated by the verb. Verb phrases in such sentences do not include a form of the be auxiliary combined with the past participle, which is an ed verb. Active voice directly tells who or what is performing the verb, and the subject is the one who does the action. Let's look at some examples of active voice. Beautiful giraffes roamed the savannah. Sue changed the flat tire. The critic wrote a scathing review. The two kings are signing the treaty. Larry generously donated the money to the homeless shelter. Notice how the subject is always doing the action. Now, in general, active voice is superior to passive. Active voice is the way our mind thinks, and our brain will even subconsciously convert passive sentences into the active voice. However, there are rhetorical situations in which passive voice is called for. These include when emphasis should be placed on the topic rather than the one doing the action, when the agent has no bearing on the discussion or is unknown, and in order to add modifiers to the agent. Now, how is this transformation from active to passive voice done? First, an object, usually the direct object, becomes the subject. Second, a form of be is added as an auxiliary. It joins the past participle of the main verb. Third, the original agent, if mentioned, becomes the object of the preposition by, or in some cases for, in the majority of passive sentences, if no agent is mentioned. But what is passive voice? It is a property of sentences in which the subject is generally the recipient of the action indicated by the verb. If an agent is included in the sentence, it is usually found after the preposition by. Verb phrases in such sentences include a form of the be auxiliary combined with the past participle. Note that the direct object becomes the subject. Thus, the agent is not necessary, and it deflects the responsibility of the action. Now let's look at some examples of passive voice. The savannah is roamed by beautiful giraffes. The flat tire was changed by Sue. A scathing review was written by the critic. The treaty is being signed by the two kings. Money was generously donated to the homeless shelter by Larry. Notice how each of these maintain the be verb along with by.
Now let's discuss our final topic, commas. Now these are some commonly misused punctuation, which begin with our comma splice, which is use of a comma without a coordinating conjunction in order to combine two independent clauses. For example, I study grammar every day, I then go to bed. The omitted comma following an introductory element. To properly use a comma in a compound sentence, you must use a comma along with a coordinating conjunction. Note, this is not a compound sentence. Now we have 12 rules of comma usage. First being compound sentences. Use a comma along with a coordinating conjunction between the independent clauses in a compound sentence. For example, I didn't believe a word Phil said, comma, and I told him so. 2. Series. Use a comma along with a coordinating conjunction between the independent clauses in a compound sentence. For example, we gossiped, laughed, and sang the old songs at our class reunion. 3. Introductory dependent clauses. Use a comma to set off dependent clauses. Example, when the riot started, the police fired tear gas into the crowd. 4. Sentence ending clauses. Use a comma to set off a dependent adverbial clause following the main clause if the adverbial clause has no effect on the outcome of the main clause. Example, some people refused to leave, comma, even though the hurricane winds had started. 5. Introductory verb phrases. Use a comma to set off an introductory phrase that contains a verb form. Example, after studying all weekend, comma, I felt absolutely prepared for the midterm exam. 6. Introductory prepositional phrases. Use a comma to set off adverbial prepositional phrases of approximately 6 or more words. Example, toward the end of the semester, everyone in my dorm starts to study seriously. 7. Other sentence modifiers. Set off words and phrases that modify the whole sentence, serve as transitions, or have parenthetical meaning at both the beginning and the end of a sentence. 8. Non-restrictive elements. Use commas to set off non-restrictive commenting elements such as non-restrictive appositives and adjectival clauses. Example: my oldest brother, a history major, spends every night in the library. 9. Coordinate adjectives. Use commas in the noun phrase between the coordinate adjectives and pre-head word position. Coordinate refers to adjectives of the same class, for example, subjective qualities. 10. Nouns of direct address. Use a comma to set off vocatives in both opening and closing positions. Example: students, comma, your time is up. Or, put your pencils down, comma, everyone. Number 11. Direct quotations. Use commas to set off direct quotations after verbs such as say and reply. Example: the waiter said, "Good evening, my name is Pierre." Harold replied, "I'm Harold and this is Joyce." And finally, 12. State and year. Use commas to set off the name of a state when it follows the name of a city. Example: I was surprised to learn that Cheyenne, Wyoming isn't a larger city.